Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. On behalf of the Move America team, we thank you for stopping into our webinar today about navigating foreign ownership, control, and influence, what we otherwise call FOCI, and how this is a critical step for defense supply chain success. My name is Rick, and I'm with the Move America Strategic Communications team. Megan, my colleague, is also here with me, and our presenter is with us as well, Dr. Christoph McCrae, and I'll introduce him in just a bit. Before we get started, we're going to give it just another minute or so to let a few more people in, but before we get started, just wanted to let you know that we've got some housekeeping rules here. Your cameras and microphones are set to off, so we have that for everybody other than the presenters and the Move America team. The chat is also off. However, if you would like to ask questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A panel. That should be right at the top of the screen, right next to chat. Go ahead and open that Q&A panel and you could submit a question there. We do moderate the questions because every now and then we get somebody who asks, would anybody like a free quote for home cleaning? Or do you need anybody to do your taxes or something like that? And we try to discourage that. So we will be moderating the questions. Dr. McCrae will be answering the questions at the end of the presentation. So we will make sure that we save time for Q&A at the end. And if we do not get to your question, we will make sure to try to get you an answer. So Meg, if you could go ahead and put the presentation up. All right, here we are. So again, this is going to be navigating foreign ownership, control, and influence. And again, how it is a critical step for defense supply chain success. So one other thing I should mention, we are going to be recording this session. So want to make sure that everybody understands that it's being recorded. Again, you're not going to be on camera and your microphone is going to be muted. However, your name is going to be displayed as part of the Q&A, as part of the chat transcript if you do put anything in there, and it's going to be displayed on screen. If there is anybody who is not okay with being on a recorded webinar, we ask that you please exit the webinar now. Otherwise, we will go ahead and get started. So as I said, my name is Rick and I'm with the Move America Strategic Communications team. And just to give you a quick overview of Move America, so you have to understand what we're here to do is be an emerging force in defense industrial base development and supply chain assistance. So what does that mean? Move America is a nonprofit organization, and what we're looking to do is help to strengthen our defense supply chain, help to strengthen our defense, get the best technologies to our warfighters, and we do that in a number of ways. We help to advance technologies. We help companies that are coming into the defense supply chain. We help them to advance those technologies to expand national security capabilities. We increase federal market access for functionality or for functionally relevant suppliers. We help to build innovative networks to serve as the infrastructure for technology development. And we conduct industrial-based research and deliver technical assistance to businesses for improved supply chain resilience. So Move America is constantly bringing together the worlds of industry, government, and academia, again, to try to build that technology and really bolster the defense industrial base. So if you want to learn more about Move America, please feel free to visit our website at moveamerica.org. You could always reach out to us at communications@moveamerica.org. So it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter today, Dr. Christoph McCrae. He is our Director of Tech Scouting. So he focuses on strengthening the defense industrial base, reviewing policies and studies that support businesses new to federal contracting and help them mitigate the risks of foreign ownership, control, and influence, among other things. His experience is quite vast. He's got more than 20 years in the defense sector. He's led teams managing modeling and simulation resources across the DoD. He's evaluated NASA's Aeronautical Independent Research and Development portfolio, and he's developed policies to enhance DoD container management. He has a PhD in physics from Hampton University. He also holds a Master of Science in Physics from Hampton University and a Bachelor's in Professional Physics from North Carolina A&T State University. Without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our presenter today, Dr. Christoph McCrae. Dr. McCrae, take it away.
Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful presentation. Everyone, as you said before, my name is Christoph McCrae. I focus on critical and emerging technologies. I focus mostly on the defense industrial base. And I'm going to talk to you today about navigating FOCI. FOCI meaning foreign ownership control or influence. And what I'm going to do is we're going to walk you down a few areas. We're going to talk about what FOCI is, why it matters. We're going to give a few FOCI examples of how it is affecting the United States right now. We're going to look at a few strategies to mitigate FOCI risk. There's quite a few strategies out there, and we're only going to touch on a few. For those who want more, please feel free to reach out to us after this or in the future. And then we're going to also look at best practices for companies with foreign investors or partnerships. Next slide, please. Oh, I can actually control it. Okay, so foreign direct investment. Before we begin even in touching on FOCI, I want to talk about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment plays a vital role in fostering economic growth, job creation, and technical innovation within a country. It really is one of the things that helps grow our businesses here in the US because innovators, technologists, businesses have capital in order to explore their ideas. In fact, the United States is one of the largest recipients of foreign direct capital. It attracts nearly a quarter of all global FDI inflows due to its open market structure and its business-friendly environment. We don't have as many restrictions as many countries do. And so companies know that they can come, they can invest in the US, and they can get a pretty good return. However, the influx of foreign capital has fueled growth across various sectors, but it has actually created a negative aspect of it as well. It has introduced significant risk, particularly in terms of intellectual property theft and economic espionage. As foreign businesses gain access to US markets and technological systems, some have exploited this openness to acquire sensitive information, both legally through partnerships and illegally through various covert methods that we can talk about later. So this growing threat of foreign acquisition of intellectual capital prompted the U.S. Congress to take action in 2022 and strengthen oversight of foreign investments, particularly those originating from nations deemed potentially a security risk. Next slide, please. So, intellectual theft from American companies has been going on really for decades. However, it has become quite significant in our new hyper-global competitive environment. This has caused Congress to act. In 2022, the Cyber Extension Act was reauthorized to continue supporting small businesses involved in high-risk, high-reward research. This is something that has been going on for decades. Cyber and CIDR has been instrumental in making sure that innovative and creative products, ideas, technology are able to be developed and possibly integrated into the defense industrial base. However, due to the rise in foreign theft, along with this support, the Act introduced stricter disclosure and due diligence requirements to reduce FOCI risks. Companies with significant foreign ties are now required to disclose any affiliations, funding, or partnerships with foreign entities. The Act increased oversight and accountability throughout the program. significantly face penalties and fines. Next slide, please. All right, I'll just take over. No worries. So now that I've given you this kind of a background, let's define what is foreign ownership, control, or influence. From this point on, I'm mostly going to refer to it as FOCI. FOCI is when a U.S. company's management or operations can be directly or indirectly controlled or influenced by a foreign entity. So this gives the foreign entity an enormous amount of control if they can do this. It gives them insight into how that company works, how they work with other companies, and if that company is working with federal government, it gives them insight into how the government works. Now, not every foreign government is considered high risk. It is entirely dependent upon their relationship with the United States. Certain countries are given greater deference than others. Allies are usually given a greater degree of acceptance within our industrial base, while countries of concern, peer competitors, are usually highly scrutinized. Regardless, whoever your foreign partner is, it's important that for national security, that all foreign relationships are revealed. So FOCI stands for Foreign Ownership, Control, or Influence and refers to the potential risk posed by foreign entities or individuals having power over a US-based company. So for this, foreign, as we know, usually stands for something outside of the United States. But for us, from a FOCI perspective, it generally applies to individuals, governments, or entities from countries of concern such as China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran. So these designations are based on the current diplomatic relationships with the United States and can change if the State Department updates its determinations. A foreign person can be any government, national, or entity controlled by foreign individuals or organizations. The ownership component of FOCI refers to the beneficial owner, the individual who enjoys the benefits of ownership even if the property or assets are legally assigned to someone else. This person can exert influence through contracts, arrangements, or relationships that give them voting or investment power, allowing them to direct decisions or control the disposition of a company's securities. So, in the context of FOCI, we'll next move to control. So in the context of FOCI, control is over the business decisions that can come from various sources. And the primary concern with control often lies with two things: covered individuals and key management personnel. Covered individuals are usually those who have contributed significantly to the scientific or technological work within the company. It could be a scientist, it could be an engineer. It is somebody that doesn't necessarily have management control, but they came in or they have been contributing significantly to the idea. And of course, with key personnel management, they have the ability to have significant authority within the organization and also have access to sensitive information. One of the ways foreign entities attempt to gain information is through a talent recruitment program. These programs are usually disguised as innocent interactions at conferences or casual meetings, but are often designed to build relationships with individuals who have access to valuable information. And what they hope to do is, through this interaction, they hope to develop relationships with other people within the company. And at some point, through enough, they are able to glean enough information from these people to understand what they're doing. If you have been a scientist, or if you're an engineer and you've worked on programs, you know how important conferences can be. It's a way for you to be able to move forward and show what kind of research or experience that you've done. It's a way for you to see what other people have done. It's a way of moving the science forward, and it is strongly encouraged. However, it is also a place where information is not necessarily shared, but can be gleaned. Foreign governments or institutions may also offer research opportunities to teach at universities and establish laboratories abroad. So many of times these offers are legitimate, but they also have other means. And we can also talk about, then we also have an example of how that could have taken place, how this situation could have taken place. So influence, the last part of FOCI, is really the most difficult to do. Fluence is so broad and it is so large. It is one of the largest categories regarding potential foci. Unlike direct ownership, which is relatively straightforward to identify, foreign influence often operates through more subtle and indirect channels. These methods can be complex, layered, and difficult to trace. It allows foreign entities to exert control or pressure on businesses without formally holding any ownership stake. So influence doesn't necessarily, as I said before, doesn't have to be direct ownership. It can stem from other economic relationships. Many of you might think about if a company is reliant on a foreign entity for revenue, funding, debt, if they are a part of if the supply chain runs through that foreign country, or they have infrastructure on there where that company has direct access to them. These are all areas of influence. In fact, a company's decision-making process and strategic direction can be influenced without holding formal control through contract agreements, assistant awards, or arrangements. These give foreign entities leverage over key management decisions. So in order to actually deal with a lot of these areas, you're going to hear this word constantly over and over. Maintaining transparency throughout the lifetime of a government contract and even beyond. In fact, we've even seen many times when a company has emerged from a government contract a year or a few years later, that technology, that knowledge, that know-how is actually captured by a foreign agent. So being able to be transparent and being able to maintain some level of awareness of foci events that may be happening in your company is extremely important. So why does foci matter? Well, if you did a quick search and you started looking at foci, what it has lost, the international theft of intellectual property, trademarks. The Associated Press had an article where they stated a few years back that the cost the U.S. around 600 billion. You look over here, you see another document that says, oh, well, it costs 200 billion. You'll see another one that might even say 300 billion. We don't exactly know how much it costs, but one consistent thing that we know is that it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And that amount is staggering and is could be transformative to our US economy. The loss of intellectual property, trade secrets, tradecraft, proprietary information prevents the US from being able to leverage this in the future, and therefore it reduces our global economic competitiveness. A study that we did here a few years ago, and it's sponsored by the Air Force and the Office of Small Business Programs. Investors that we spoke to continually stated that companies that had weak cyber defenses or strong ties to countries of concern were reluctant to support due to the legal burdens and possible reputational issues. Finally, companies with relationships with countries of concern will always be highly scrutinized as to what they might possibly offer the US and may not receive funding. It is always a risk if you are dealing with a country of concern. Well, and one thing is for certain, again, the relationship with a foreign country of concern will probably mean the loss of a facility security clearance. So let's talk about a few of the examples that we have. We have at Google a software engineer who was charged with 14 counts of economic espionage and theft of trade secrets. He allegedly stole sensitive AI technology while collaborating with companies within China. The significance about this is he also had inside help. While he was in China, people used his badge to let the company think that he was in the United States and working. Eventually, what happened is the company he left the company, and a few days later, he was announced as the chief technology officer at a Chinese tech company focused on AI.
Next slide.
There you go. Got it. Okay. So, and the next slide. This is focusing on hypersonic flight engine. So, another example, and this is really falls into the area of foreign talent recruitment program. But a Chinese American engineer who served as the lead engineer for NASA's hypersonic program in the late 1990s developed an X-plane design featuring having very unique designs and was designed to reach speeds exceeding Mach 5. He was quite good. He had worked at DARPA and he had worked at Lockheed Martin. However, due to NASA's inability to, due to the high costs and the unresolved technical issues, NASA did not see the value in continuing with this work, and so they shelved it. Nobody knows exactly how it happened. It wasn't through Dr. Tang's work, but somehow Chinese scientists at Jiangxing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics later discovered, built, and tested a prototype based on his original design. They have since taken this technology and have adapted it, and this is how they got their first hypersonic weapon. They transformed it into a nuclear-capable missile engine. This case highlights how developed high-tech research can have a dual purpose and be repurposed in a way that becomes a national security threat. But for this discussion, the adverse foreign influence and economic espionage, from my perspective, focuses on how foreign talent recruitment can glean information without us knowing about it. So because of our openness, because of the inflows of foreign and global money, many companies, China, many foreign companies have set up incubators to support critical technology that is occurring in the United States. One of those incubators is happening in Silicon Valley. This company is responsible for over 30 projects investing and has gotten 41 of those projects to settle or plan to return to their country. Another example is how they are used. There is a new process where it's called a layer of funds. One fund funds multiple funds. One venture capital fund invests in multiple funds, thus having exposure to multiple technologies and ideas. This allows them to keep an eye on what's going on and where the technology is going. So with all those examples just illustrated, I guess the question really becomes, how does a company manage FOCI risk? A better question is, what type of management systems should be in place? This requires an overarching process where there are 4 things that need to happen: identification, adjudication, mitigation planning and implementation, and then a continuous tracking of the program in cooperation with security requirements. Now, this ultimately reduces the level of possibly FOCI concerns, but let me make it be very clear, it does not completely eliminate things. For what you want to do as far as mitigation is, you want to create a layer of mitigations so that you get that possibility of FOCI to as close to a below 10% or as low as possible. After mitigation plan and implementation plan has been set, then you do your continuous monitoring to take place throughout the program to ensure consistent alignment with DoD FOCI policies and standards. So when a company is working with the federal government, it's essential to begin the identification and adjudication process early to assess potential FOCI risks. A key document that you should all start to think about and start to use is the SF-328 certificate pertaining to foreign interests. And it will help you evaluate factors such as financial ties, secure facilities, and leadership structure. It will help you determine beneficial owners and whether any foreign entities have the potential to exert control or influence over the organization. Again, because FOCI is ever evolving, the SF-328 does not fully capture everything, but it is a good place to start. And again, one thing that you can do is to always try and maintain full transparency when disclosing any foreign ownership, control, and influence or exposure. It's important for businesses to ensure their processes and safeguards comply with relevant regulations. And some of them that come to mind is DoD Instruction 5205, the NISBOM, and the Committee on Foreign, and the requirements set by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. So one thing every company that works with the federal government should do is also maintain regular safety briefings and trainings to ensure all personnel understand FOCI risks. The types of mitigations that will need to be applied will always depend on the severity of your FOCI issue. There are a large array, and we show only a few of the mitigations that have been developed and accepted by the federal government. Based upon what your severity level is, will depend on what mitigations will be needed. FOCI issues can range from no FOCI risk to significant FOCI risk, and there are mitigations that can address the majority of them. If you work with the Move America, we will seek to align those mitigations with the level or risk identified and analyzed. There are mitigations to address most, if not all, of the issues that you might have. One thing is for certain, due to the CIBR and CIDR Acts of 2022, most programs will need to continuously monitor programs throughout the life of the program. So therefore, maintaining records of all FOCI-related disclosures, mitigation plans is extremely important. So, in conclusion, as we stated before, foreign direct investment is extremely important. It is one of the main drivers of a country's development. The United States is close to being number one as we acquire close to a quarter of all global investment. However, this also has a negative side, and that's with FOCI. Businesses, especially those contracting with the U.S. government, must be vigilant in assessing, mitigating, and monitoring FOCI risks. Managing FOCI risks is particularly challenging for businesses, but there are tools, Office of Small Business Programs, and Move America, and others that can actually help a small business work through that. Regardless, all businesses should take a proactive approach and use effective risk mitigation, adjudication, and identification when looking at FOCI. Any questions?
All right, so once again, microphones and cameras are off. If you would like to ask a question of Dr. McCrae, please go ahead and put it into the Q&A panel. And we are not seeing any questions. So I do have one question. Oh, here we go. So I do have one question. If someone is looking for guidance when it comes to vetting sources of funding, what type of guidance is available? I mean, what type of information should they be looking at, or who should they be reaching out to?
If you're looking for guidance, you can using DCSA has tools that can be used. Move America is actually developing tools that we can actually look at, help look at a company. There are tools out there. So if you're looking for guidance, if you go to the Office of Small Business Programs, if you look at DCSA, they will lead you and guide you to tools and possible places to go as far as ways to address those funding issues or those issues. But for everything, I would recommend filling out the SF 328.
All right, so we have another question. So if, knowing all of these risks, why, what would cause a business to take a risk with FOCI? I mean, do we have any examples that we can give?
What do you mean by why would a company take the risk?
So what would be the factors that would cause a company not to be as vigilant as they probably should be?
Well, first and foremost, the FOCI is continuously changing. So sometimes you can be accepting funds from someone and you don't know that it is from a foreign country, a foreign agent, or a foreign person. But I think we need to think about this in another way. There are people out there who have started businesses, and these are something that they have invested their life in. These are some things that they want to survive. They believe in their dream and they believe in the technology. And if they need to accept funds in order to to survive, that will probably happen. Many companies that we have seen were funded by the federal government, developed some good technology, but in many ways did not have an off ramp, did not have a way to commercialize it, did not know what to do with it next. And so some of them were acquired by foreign agents, foreign persons. It happens.
All right, so we have another question that has come in. Can you provide any comment on the risk associated with a U.S. owned company employing a UK national in a management position?
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. You blinked out for a second. Sorry.
Apologies. Can you comment on the risk associated with a U.S. owned company employing a UK national in a management position?
Well, if it's a UK national, as long as you're transparent, it shouldn't be a problem. Um, First and foremost, we are on very good terms with the UK, so we would not see that as a risk. But as I stated earlier, it's always best to be transparent. But from my perspective, without having really looked at the person or anything, I would say that the risk is very low.
Very good. Our next question, is it accurate that working with other countries that are not a country of concern is still considered FOCI?
So, as we said in the beginning, um, foci foreign is usually with in the foci perspective from the foci perspective, foreign is with a foreign country of concern. So um, I would say yes. Going back to the original definition.
All right, next question. As a consulting company, what are the reporting requirements when working with foreign companies looking to enter the federal marketplace?
So I would go if you're looking at the reporting requirements, there are a lot of looking at your SF 328, look at what DCSA has done. I think you will find what those reporting requirements are there. I would go to DCSA, I would go to OSBP, things like that.
All right, next question. How does FOCI work in conjunction with CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification requirements when it comes to federal customers?
So CMMC is another security level for to protect businesses. And we actually, in our study that we did, FOCI cyber is extremely important because that is one of the new ways that companies are now acquiring information. So CMMC is extremely important in terms of FOCI. And DCSA with their new SF328, I believe they said they were going to cover that.
Very good. Another question, are there any additional guidelines regarding the joining of a mutual organization, like a nonprofit or government services or, any type of business consortium, for example?
I would not know about that.
Okay. So, but, again, if you're looking at foci and you're looking at that influence, if being part of an organization with, um, where there are other members of the organization that could be from the nation states that are considered risky, could that potentially impact a business's when they're looking at whether or not they are having any foci issues?
Right. If they are joining an organization that actually has foreign persons, and especially foreign persons of concern from companies or countries that are of concern to us, then yes, that would be. Like I said, transparency is always the best, especially if you are going for a project or a program. Transparency is one of the more important things, and you would be asked about those.
All right, we have another question. Do we know about how long the process is to obtain an SF-328 certificate?
Um, if you download the SF-328 and you go through it, the questions are pretty straightforward. So it shouldn't take long to fill it out. The question is that what you fill out and when you turn it in based on a program, it's basically how long will it take to um, how long does it take to go through it? So for some people, it only takes a few moments. It's no, 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 and they're done. Some people, it talks about, hey, this is how we have structured our organization. This is the number of voting shares. It could take quite a long time. And then once you turn that in, that has to be drilled down even more. So it could take some time. So it could take very little time to quite a bit of time. And that's not even in talking about what mitigations will need to be done in order to address the FOCI issues that have been uncovered.
And then another question, are there any materials that Move America has published that would help organizations or businesses understand FOCI a little better?
Right now, we have completed a study with the Air Force and the Office of Small Business Programs. We are waiting for that study to be released. And so we have white papers on our website. But once that study is released, um, which we're hoping that in August or maybe September of this year, late this year, it'll be finally reviewed and released. Right now, you should go to our website and maybe pick up one of our white papers.
Checking on the Q&A panel, and it looks like we may have hit the end of our questions. Okay, if there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A panel. We'll go ahead and make sure that they do get answered. But Dr. McCray, thank you so much for joining us and presenting this information. And just a teaser, Move America is going to be launching a podcast very soon. And Dr. McCray has graciously volunteered to be one of the guests on the podcast. So we'll be having another discussion about FOCI and touching upon some of these and, these examples and maybe even a few others. So really looking forward to that discussion. We want to thank everyone who joined us today. We are trying very hard to make sure that we're putting this information out there that is going to help businesses, that is going to help you bring the technology needed to the defense supply chain. We want those businesses to succeed. And so in order to do that, we're going to give you all the help that we can give. And these webinars are just an example of that. So thank you so much, Dr. McCray, for presenting this information. Thanks, looking forward to constantly bringing you the information that you need to succeed in your quest to bring more of that innovation to the defense supply chain and the defense industrial base.
If you still have questions, just shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn for monthly newsletters and webinar updates. And check out our website for even more resources and ways to get involved. Thanks for watching.